What if women's health is not about optimizing every habit, but actually understanding your body and letting it lead? In this episode, Izzy Fisher, founder of Daily Basis, shares how her own health struggles led her into women's health and why learning your menstrual cycle is one of the most powerful tools for long term wellness. In this episode, we unpack cycle syncing and why optimization culture is leaving so many of us burnt out and disconnected from ourselves. This is a conversation about building sustainable health, redefining success, and choosing contentment over constant self improvement. If you have ever felt exhausted by wellness culture, this episode will definitely resonate with you today. Welcome to In Alignment. I'm Annie.
And I'm Marissa. You were meant to find this today, and we're so glad you're here.
Welcome to In Alignment, Izzy. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Yay, we're so excited to have you. We'd love to start by hearing more about your journey. You can share a little bit about your story, your background, and what led you into the CPG space originally and building a women's health company.
Yeah, 100%. Well, as you know, I'm Izzy. I am one of the co-founders of Daily Basis, which is a women's health company designing life stage-based supplements that help support every stage of a woman's life. Our current product is a daily nutritional supplement that we are supporting menstrual health cycle support women. And way I got here is very untraditional. I have spent a lifetime in the health and wellness world in my personal life, but really started dialing down into what was good for my body when I was about 23. I was working in my first startup. I had started a plant-based nutrition athletic fuel company, and I was also suffering from an intense eating disorder. Growing up in Boulder, Colorado, being an athlete, there were amazing parts of that, and then there were also parts of that that were challenging that really led me to struggling a lot with body image and eating and all the things that so many women resonate with, I believe. And that really threw me headfirst into the health and wellness world, but not really the positive side of the health and wellness world, as I'm sure a lot of you have also been familiar with. And while I was doing this company, I was grappling with learning that I was quite sick, and also at the same time in my career was exploding, and I was learning how to start a business and learning about entrepreneurial side of me. And it was this very high, low experience that taught me how much I loved the health and wellness world, while also understood the limits of that world and how it can really be suffocating in many ways, and how so much of the consumer space is focused on habits that can be also very toxic. And when I went to go heal my eating disorder and get help, I also really started to internalize this, that we are human and moderation is really essential, and we need to recognize the whole picture of health and wellness and how it can be really damaging on one end, and how it also can be extremely helpful and life changing for your wellness and your longevity. But the way in which you're going about that is really critical. And I think that not a lot of people are prioritizing the way that prioritizes your mental health, which is the most important thing. I think we can all agree. And so during that time, I decided to leave my first business that I'd started because of this. My co-founder and I didn't align on where we wanted the business to go. I wanted to prioritize women's health movement. I was recovering from an eating disorder. It was very convoluted. And my co-founder wanted to just sell more. And I decided that that was not right for me. And so I moved to California. I was in Boston before. I moved to California, and I dove into the world of consumer products and just learning on how they're built. The first one was a plant-based ice cream company, which was super interesting. It was random. It had nothing to do with my passion, but learned so much about early startups and consumer and retail. And then I, after that, moved to another company that was a supplement company, more vain, not really prioritizing true health and wellness over sales. And then I ultimately moved to Cliff Bar, where I worked in the protein business there and learned again that it is wild how much money people want to make and how little they care about what's healthy for you. Bars packed with sugar and they're just trying to sell it to anyone and everyone. And it is just wild. And so long story short, I knew that I wanted to get out. I knew that I wanted to do it my own way. I was really passionate about doing it my own way. And at the same time, I was experiencing a lot of my own hormonal issues. I think a lot of them came from having an eating disorder, but also came from being the classic story of a woman in a successful career. I was balls to the wall all the time, waking up at 5 a.m., running 9 miles, biking, swimming, training for triathlete lawns, not eating enough, fasting, all the things. And even though I had healed from my eating disorder, I think I still had a really toxic relationship to rest and recover. And I did not understand how to do that. And I think it really put my hormones into havoc. I'd irregular, painful periods, super interestingly off metabolic issues. I had weight gain and weight loss and acne and all the things that my body was screaming something is off. Um, at the same time, I decided to go off birth control. And along this time, I was leaving my job at Cliff. I was dealing with all of these symptoms. And I all of a sudden learned about the menstrual cycle and all the things that are so critical to prioritizing rest, digest, recovery at different times of the month, when you should push it, how your nutrition should change, how important your eating is for your cortisol levels, all the things that I'm sure a lot of people have talked about on this podcast. But I was learning it for the first time at 27. And that was the first time I asked the question, why didn't I know any of this? And why did I not understand how important all these things are for women? And I think that was the first time I asked myself the question, why are women being left out of the equation? And I wanted to solve that. So yeah, that was very long-winded, but that was the start of how I got to Daily Basis. And I'm happy to chat more about exactly the Daily Basis products. That's kind of a separate journey, but that's my story.
Annie and I were just talking about this the other day. I did not know anything about the menstrual cycle until I went off of birth control when I was 29 and had a similar
Yeah.
reaction to like, how did I not know any of this? How have I just been not experiencing this basically my entire life? And yeah, so I'm curious how that kind of revelation changed your ideas about all of these things with health and how that translated into you starting Daily Basis.
Yeah, totally. Similarly was shocked when I learned that the menstrual cycle and the hormonal fluctuations changed how women perceive the world, how social we are, how nutrition changes, how our sleep changes, how our mood changes, how our general demeanor changes. I felt like I was really gypped in a way, because when I learned about the hormonal fluctuations and how different we feel throughout the month, it kind of became a guidebook for me. I was able to start giving myself grace in a way that I had never been able to give myself in my whole life. Right before my period, when I'm tired and I don't like how I look and I want to stay inside, now I know that's progesterone working. And I know that my period's going to come. And so, of course, I feel this way, instead of being like, what the heck? Why am I so tired? What's wrong with me? I'm so sick. I can't hit my workouts. What's the problem? And I think so many women have this cyclical brain self talk that's extremely negative to themselves. And so many people that I've talked to, and so many women, when I explained the cycle to them, have the same revelation. They're like, oh, duh, I totally feel that. Or that time of the month where you feel so hot and sexy and you want to go and be with all your friends and have a drink and do whatever. There's a reason for that too. And I think that learning that really became super powerful for me, just to know it, just to know that information. And so that was the first kind of piece that I was really passionate about, is the education of helping women understand their own bodies, just talking to my friends and seeing their world change basically when they really understood this. And then the second piece of that was learning about how nutrition changes so drastically throughout the month, and specifically how nutrient deficiencies are so common among menstruating women. The second part of having a menstrual cycle is the period. Most people would say that's your cycle, but as we know, your cycle is so much more than that. To your period, you're losing lots of blood tissue, vitamins, minerals, and nutrients every single month. And over 80% of menstruating women are deficient in critical nutrients that they're losing through blood and tissue every month and not replenishing. And these nutrient deficiencies are causing kinds of symptoms. A lot of times, this is what is causing really bad PMS, irregular cycles, mood swings, energy issues, immune issues, and anything all the way up to infertility, issues with conceiving, bad perimenopause symptoms. I mean, your menstruating phase of your life is your base foundation of the rest of your life. So setting your body up really, really solidly there is going to prepare you for a smooth sailing ride through the rest of your life. And learning this, my co-founder, Sophie, she had really bad anemia. I had really intense vitamin D deficiencies. And both of us were realizing that it was due to a lack of prioritizing proper nutrition throughout the cycle at the right times of the month. And I really wanted to fix that. And I looked at all of the products on the market. My husband was taking AG1 at the time, and I was looking at the ingredients. And my first reaction was, there's nothing in here that I would need to really prioritize my female specific health. And why don't we have something that syncs their cycle? I mean, we're changing our exercise, we're changing the way that we perceive the world, our social life, our sleep naturally. So why are we not changing our nutrition too? And that's when I had the idea of Daily Basis. And I said, you know what? I think I want to find a health practitioner, an OBGYN, and figure this out and build something that's really designed for the female body to help cover their daily basis. I mean, a daily multivitamin needs to be so much more than just magnesium for symptoms or vitamin D for this reason. But if you really look at how the female biology works and the nutrients we're losing every month and the way in which our body changes and the needs change throughout the hormone cycle, it's pretty shocking that there wasn't something that could help support women in this way. And thus the Daily Basis was born.
There's, PCOS, endometriosis, certain hormonal imbalances. Is Daily Basis a healthy supplement for all women, or is it specific on your hormone levels or nutrient deficiencies or specific symptoms that you're experiencing?
So we are not a symptom-based company. The product is designed for anyone who is menstruating. So having a period every month or having a period on some sort of regular-ish cadence. And the reason for that is when you're losing the blood and tissue every month, you have higher nutrient needs at certain times. So if you're not bleeding, Daily Basis is not the best fit for you because, for example, you might have totally fine iron levels or totally fine zinc and folate levels. You could talk to a doctor, see if it's a good supplement for you, but in general, it's specifically designed for menstruating women. If you have PCOS, it's great. If you have endometriosis, it's great, just as long as you have a period.
Yeah, I when you say that you're surprised that this didn't exist, I'm actually not that surprised because I feel like even conceptually, the fact that we would have different exercises or different eating differently or behaving differently through parts of our cycle, I feel like and maybe it's just my perception of this, but I feel like this has really come into my purview in the last couple of years and
Yeah.
certainly wasn't taught in school. It's not taught in health class or sex ed or any other time. So I'm curious where you found that education and how it's been like received, I guess, by women. Are you finding that people get this concept?
Yes and no. I think you're right. The way that I came to it was I went to the doctor when I was having all these symptoms, and my OBGYN was like, "Meh, you're fine. Like, you'll be okay. Just see if it can go away on its own. And if you want to have a baby, come back to me." And I did not like that answer, and I wanted to understand what's happening at a real root cause, deep level. So I took it on upon myself to do research. I read a bunch of different books. Elisa Beatty is a really good resource. She has a lot of really great books. I'm sure you've read. And similar to you, I was getting off birth control, so I read Beyond the Pill. I think was the first book that I read.
So good. I read that.
Yeah, it's great. It's like, and she really outlines all of the things that women need at different times of the month and different phases of the cycle and how to support your body coming out of transition. And what I think is so devastating is that our general practitioners they don't ever take any of this information into consideration. And so you asked if people really understand this concept. I think women in my circle do because I've explained it to them. But even some of my most powerful, smart, educated, badass female friends, I had to sit down with them on the couch and draw the hormonal cycle and explain to them kind of how they're going to be feeling at different times and what to expect. And this friend said that once I did that, it just all made so much sense. So many pieces clicked into the equation. And now when she's craving peanut butter and chocolate right before her period, she knows why and all these different things. So I think that it's definitely hard. And as a business owner, the education piece is a challenge for sure to help in getting people to understand why having the two formulas is super beneficial for your body. So you're not overloading on one side of the month and underloading on the other. But it's challenging because, it's almost like a new industry that we're creating. And it's going to be a journey. We definitely haven't figured that one out yet, but we're working on it.
So you struggled with hormone imbalances. Was it gut issues too, or your co-founder had gut issues?
Yeah.
And you're feeling better now. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah. So my co-founder had really intense anemia, iron deficiency, which so many women have iron deficiency. If you have a period, chances are you are at least a little bit deficient in iron. Anemia is a whole nother thing, but a lot of women are anemic. I mean, and iron is so hard to keep your levels up. And so she started supplementing with iron specifically right after her period and during her period in really high doses and then tapering it off after that. Because having too much iron all the time is also not positive. You have to be careful with iron. Iron's a big one. And that helped her immensely. But we are also believers in supplements are a tool and they're supportive. They are not the entire picture. Changing all of the other behaviors and habits also immensely helped for both of us. The supplementation did a lot of work, of course, but also not skipping breakfast anymore and sleeping 8 hours a night and not needing to exercise 7 days a week and listening to your body, which truly I know it's said over and over again, but I didn't learn how to listen to my body until I started to learn about the menstrual cycle because it just became so obvious to me that your body is literally giving you signs to just chill the F out. And we are all constantly just pushing ourselves. And so supplementation in combination with all the lifestyle behaviors and specifically thinking about syncing those lifestyle behaviors with your cycle really changed the game for both Sophie and I.
That's amazing. And you mentioned listening to your body, and I think you're so right on that, is our body will guide us. It will tell us if we're hungry, for what, for how much, for what type of movement, for how much rest, for social plans or no social plans. But it's very difficult, and we often want to override it with logic in our plan, and that's what we're going to stick to. How did you actually start listening to your body, and what shifts did you start to feel when you did?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was just so sick. Like I was so desperate to figure something out. And I think this sounds so woo-woo, but I think there was a pull for me where I really wanted to change something. I just didn't feel good ever. I was sick of wrestling with all of these different symptoms. And I was also starting a business and there's all these things that are happening in my life, but I think that I had this really intense draw to do it in a way that prioritized my health. And I think that changing the narrative on pushing the limit versus listening to your body takes a lot of very intentional self work and dialogue and patience with yourself. And I think I just wanted it bad enough. And I'm sad to say that because I think that it is really challenging to get people to just do things for the sake of their health rather than having something horrible happen to them and then they want to change it around. So many founder stories are the same thing over and over again. I felt so horrible. I wanted to change my life so I felt better. And now I feel great. And my story looks a lot like that. But I think that what I'm really passionate about is helping women understand their bodies, because once you understand your body, it makes it so easy to prioritize the thing that it needs. But without understanding the science and what's happening, I think that it's really difficult for women to give yourself grace and patience, because you're always going to be pushing the limit and earing on the side of go more, impress the world, do better, rather than deeply understanding I have this thing that is biological that I can't control.
Yeah, and it's like our society is so not built for it, whether it's the way work is structured or even the way, like workout class memberships are. It's like you're supposed to be doing, you want to go to that one class as many times as possible over the month to like get your money's worth, or the way you schedule plans. Like it's not in our kind of culture to listen that way. So I think it does take that education of, "Oh, I am more social this time of the month because I have all this estrogen and my body is geared to mate. So it wants to put on red lipstick and go outside." Like the
Yeah.
understanding that I think gives us, like you said, almost that permission to start listening. And a lot of us have to I think Annie and I are both examples of that too, where we both had to start feeling pretty bad before we kind of found this.
Yeah.
Do you find that that's the case for a lot of the people who are finding your business where they're coming like, "I just wanna feel better," or what does that look like for you guys?
Actually, no. It's been really interesting. A lot of our customers are people who are a little bit confused about supplementation and how to do it. They want to supplement because they know that it can be a powerful tool, but they don't know where to go because the supplement market is so overwhelming. And the supplement market is also extremely untrustworthy. As someone who has started and built a supplement, I can verify that it is really be skeptical, everyone, on what supplements you're taking, because you can put anything in a bottle and sell it. There is so little regulation that it is on the onus of the brand and the business to do the work to make it a really powerful and quality product. And so people come to us because they want to support their body, but they also want something really tailored to women. And even if they don't understand the cycle, they see that it has something to do with the menstrual cycle, and then they think that it's really tailored to them. And so that drives them to purchasing it. We thought that there would be more people like horrible periods, horrible cramps, but those people I find are actually just reaching for the symptom marketing, the symptom products. Like the cramp product and the immune health product or the headache product or ibuprofen or Tylenol. Like if you're really having that much pain, oftentimes you're not going to think about how can I prioritize my whole month taking a supplement or resting, nutrition, et cetera, for the whole month. And then your symptoms will probably be but I mean, I last month I had a crazy travel schedule. I was traveling. I was in Asia. I was in Colorado. I was all over the place. I was so stressed. And it was all right for my period. And I had a horrible period, horrible debilitating cramps. I was exhausted. It was super heavy. I didn't take any of my supplements basically the entire month. And my experience with that month versus the previous month, where I was home doing my normal routine, taking my supplements, eating correctly, working out as my body felt it, not traveling, sleeping, easy period, barely even noticed it. So it's interesting once you pay attention, how your habits for the whole month impact how bad your period's going to be versus, and that's kind of, I think that's the same for a lot of things.
It's interesting too because your period is a little report card on your health every month. And
Totally.
if it is really painful or if it's a little bit late or you have really bad PMS or pain or exhaustion, it's an opportunity to reflect. How did this
Yeah.
month go? Was I really stressed? Was
Yeah.
I sleeping enough? Was I drinking too much? Was I under eating? I know, for me, if I'm skipping breakfast too often, sometimes it can mess with ovulation, especially in the first part of my cycle. If you can start noticing, like,
Yeah.
what does your body need and listen to it. And at the end of the month, based on your symptoms and how regular you are, you really get a window of insight into how well you've taken care of yourself or where you need to adjust. I do think that's a really interesting comment, though, that women are coming to you proactively because you're not a band aid. You're really a foundational support tool for
Yeah.
women's health and long term health. And it's also really important. There's a lot of talk about being proactive about building a healthy foundation now in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and how that sets you up into menopause, perimenopause, menopause, even
Mhm.
fertility, an easy
Yeah.
postpartum experience, delivery. Do you find that a supplement like this is really supportive of long-term women's health?
Oh yeah, totally. That's the reason why we formulated it. We were looking at all of the foundational multis on the market and those supplements, and it's pretty bleak. I mean, the forms and the percentage of vitamins and minerals in a lot of these supplements are they're just nowhere near the right amounts or the right forms to really prioritize bioavailability and absorption for many people. And it's different for women versus men. Shocker. And this supplement specifically, the reason why we started with this one rather than starting with a prenatal or a perimenopause supplement or menopause supplement was because it's true. It's the foundation for the rest of your life. And if you can have a solid nutrition and your body is operating really well going into all of that, it's going to be so much easier. I mean, you even see pregnancies and how much easier pregnancies are when you have more nutrients to pull from than less. It's you're gonna have less symptoms. You're gonna have an easier first trimester. All of these things are gonna be easier on your body. Of course, there are genetic factors on all of these things. Caveat that will change how your body acts during certain phases of your life. But in general, I think having really, really strong nutrition earlier in your life is always going to set you up better.
I'd love to ask, what are some other supportive things that you do for your hormones outside of daily basis?
Yeah, so many things. One thing that we have been playing around with lately is actually working our work schedule around our cycle. I feel like it's kind of controversial because people are like, it's fine. Cycle syncing is silly for women. And I do want to caveat all of this with saying that I am a true believer that your cycle is a guidebook. Like it is a tool for women to understand their bodies more and then make decisions about what they're going to do in their life. It does not mean that you can't exercise during your luteal phase. I feel like there's a lot of Instagram information out there that's like, it's my luteal phase, so I can only go on a walk. Like I'm not going to go to my hit workout. And it's like, no. If you feel up for a hit workout and it's the day before your period, great. Just, understand that maybe you might feel a little more wrecked from it, or you might not perform best, or your heart rate might be higher, and maybe your period might be slightly more uncomfortable. I want to caveat with that because I think there's a lot of literature out there right now that's like so intense about the cycle syncing thing. But I do think that there is a very interesting creative slash focus shift throughout your cycle that I've been integrating. When I'm entering into my period and my luteal phase, I like kind of monotonous tasks, doing lots of outreach, Excel spreadsheets, kind of like sitting and having to do one thing after another for a long period of time. Whereas when I'm in my follicular phase and estrogen is pumping through my veins, I'm more creative and I'm more extroverted. So I want to take more calls and be on the podcast and be on the investor calls and take the things that are a little harder to get myself to do socially. Whereas when you're at my luteal phase, I kind of try to structure more of that like heads down solo work. So even it's obviously hard to execute, especially in a startup when everything is firing all at once. But we've been playing around with that, which has been really fascinating with how well it works when you're doing it right. And then really it's just listening to my body. I mean, like my routine changes so often depending on how I'm feeling that day. And I think that that's been the biggest thing for me is honoring that. And like today I was signed up for a 7:30 Pilates class and I woke up there's stuff going on that's super stressful in the business. And I felt my body just so stressed out. And I knew that I couldn't wake up early and leave the house and go work out. I needed to just calm. I went on a walk. Took some deep breaths. I skipped the coffee. And then I worked out a little later once I felt like my body nervous system was calmed down and calmed down that way. So yeah, didn't really answer your question, but I think that the just listening to your body in that way, like where our body really is amazing. And if we listen to what it's telling us and also have the understanding of where we are hormonally, it's really powerful.
I think also the luteal phase and PMS and everything gets super demonized is just in general is like this horrible time. And Annie and I have been talking about like there are actually some superpowers that you get during those times. Like maybe you feel more intuitive or you're more reflective. And I think that's also part of like listening to your body and appreciating it is that you
Yeah.
have these sort of strengths.
Yeah.
When you said you're structuring work around there, like are there any kind of hidden strengths or good elements of the like different phases that you've noticed?
Yeah. I mean, I love the luteal phase. I think it's great. Obviously, I don't feel the most social and fun and beautiful, but I feel like I want to cozy up on the couch and read a book. And it's like, it's great. Sometimes you don't want to do that. So I think it's awesome. Yeah, the luteal phase gets a bad rap for sure. I think that doing focused tasks right for your period, like if you try to do that, you'll be pretty amazed with how much easier they come. You know how sometimes when you have a really focused project that you have to do and you're just dreading it, so you keep putting it off and putting it off, putting it off. Try to proactively schedule it for 1 week before your period and see how the energy shifts. I have found that it's actually quite powerful. And then do more of your creative brainstorming stuff during or right after your period. With the estrogen rising and then the progesterone falling, those two very drastic hormonal shifts, they do totally change the way that you approach work and life. And just try it and see, report back and let me know if you feel a difference. Some people do, some people don't. I think it's pretty powerful.
I find too that I'm in my luteal phase majorly right now. Actually, I notice that I can have a tendency to get in my head and then sidetrack. Like a thought
Yeah.
kind of uncomfortable, and usually I'd be able to be like, "All right, like I'll look at this rationally or I'll put it away for later." In my luteal phase, it's very easy to like
You're like,
run with the thought. Exactly. And it's funny that you say do a more in-depth focused task during that time. 'Cause I find that if I just take action on things, like if I look at my to-do list, I say, "What is the easiest thing on this list?" And I just start doing them, it's an immediate way to not run on that tangent in your head and kinda get lost in the looping thoughts. So
yeah.
that practice definitely does work. I'd be curious to ask you as well, you're starting a company, you're a founder, which is hard. And it's definitely, you're working a lot. It's your baby. You're so invested in it. How do you balance taking care of yourself and keeping your stress down and staying regulated and balanced and maintaining healthy cycles while also starting a company?
It's super hard. I mean, I think that you both probably know as you're both starting a company. I think that it is just, it's a constant fight against what I need and what the industry tells me I need. I think that's the biggest thing. Um, Especially in San Francisco, startup culture is very toxic. It is really, really hard to break away from I have to be grinding 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I have to sleep in the office. I have to be constantly talking about my business. The reality is, I'm just not going to do that. And the reason being is because my startup will suffer. And I think that is the thing that has been so amazing with having another female of my age group start this with me is we're both on the same page when it comes to we're gonna maybe not do it the way the status quo says that we need to do it. And I have had periods in my life where I grinded for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I cannot do it anymore. And part of the benefits of starting your own business is to be your own boss and have your own rules and have your own working style. And it gets stolen from you when when you look at the way in which all of the technology companies are building in this way that just seems so unsustainable. And so I think that one is having that just be an understanding about yourself, right? Like I know that if I am overworked, I'm not going to show up well. And that's not going to be good for the business. And I know that if my relationship with my co-founder is suffering, probably because I'm overworked and dysregulated, then we're not going to show up well together and then things aren't going to get done as quickly. And so I think that we just have it all backwards. And I think the more you prioritize your own health, the more your business thrives. And I definitely feel that on the weeks where I am so drained, things are not as efficient. It's more frustrating. Work doesn't get done as quickly. And when I'm clear and I'm feeling good and I'm positive, so much more productive. I mean, it's pretty drastic. So we need to work on that in the startup world, I think. But that's someone else's job, I think.
I think it's helpful for women to hear this because at least for me in my 20s, I didn't really see an alternative to grinding myself until I couldn't function anymore. And I just thought that is what success looks like. And that's what everyone's doing. I mean, San Francisco right now is like famous, right, for what is it, the 996? It's like 6 days a week in office, working all the time. And I think, there are results that are happening because of that. But I think that there aren't as many stories of people who are like, hey, actually, when I take care of myself, I'm more successful. They're more stable. They're more long term. Like we have people talking about burnout constantly right now. People are like burned out. They're sick. And I think that connection between like how you show up, you can't supplement away grinding yourself into the ground and being miserable all day, every day. You can't eat healthy enough to offset that. Like supplements and diet and everything are like only as supportive as what you're doing with the bulk of your day in some ways. So I just think it's cool to, yeah, like to hear people who are starting a company and doing something is meaningful in the world that are also taking care of themselves. It's just like not the story we're getting all the time.
Yeah, it's also backwards. You have all of these founders in health and wellness, and then
Yeah.
they're working 7 days a week and not sleeping. And it's like, so you're just trying to make money. That's really to me what it says is there's really no other bulk to their mission, or it's just words. Because if you're really living your mission as a health company, let's prioritize your own health and live by example. Because the reality is I know that if I were to live the way that I did a decade ago and then try to do this company, it wouldn't even make sense. It's like our number one mission for daily basis is prioritizing women's health. That is number one value. And so that means my health too. I'm a woman, so that's my
Yeah, and you think better, you're more creative, you make better decisions. I always say this, I spent my whole career really up until now in early stage venture capital investing in early stage health and wellness startups. And it was crazy, just as you said. I mean, it's like the way that they operate is often the antithesis of health and wellness. It is
yeah.
grinding at 3 a.m. and like having midnight playlist and burning yourself to the ground. And it's really interesting. I think the health and wellness industry at large has become extremely commoditized. I think it's also another way for people to outsource their health to something else. And I think there's a lot of fear mongering. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, health and wellness, ironically, isn't really that healthy. Not all the
It's
companies.
toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's toxic. I mean, that's what I was talking about at the beginning of like the health and wellness industry literally led me to a severe eating disorder. And it's like, there's so many companies targeting so many different people who are vulnerable and telling you that you need to be a certain way. And I think that what I love about the industry is how much I feel like it's getting exposed a little bit right now. And there are way more companies coming out prioritizing mindfulness and relaxing and rest and digest and all the things that are really the pinnacle of health. Also, the conversation around community and how critical having a social life is for your health. And I think that's another thing that I have really tried to prioritize, especially since COVID. And it's crazy how much happier I am when I'm more social, even if that means that I'm drinking a couple more alcoholic beverages than I used to be drinking maybe 5 years ago. But it's like, that outweighs the happiness and health that gives me, makes me feel way more healthy than if I'm gonna not go out at all. And I'm also not saying that you'd have to drink to have fun, obviously. We love sober living. But I just think that it's the community piece and the mindfulness piece and these conversations that are coming out in the health and wellness world are amazing. It's prioritizing less on you have to eat these exact things and you have to take 5 million supplements a day and you have to work out every day because it's just old information. That's not true.
It's also such optimization culture, and it's kind of ironic that New York City and San Francisco, these big tech hubs, all of these tech founders are also super into health and wellness or going off to start health and wellness companies. Even like I'm a huge fan of Aura Ring, most primarily honestly for birth control. I think it's an amazing, yeah,
It's
it's an
amazing. Yeah.
amazing option for women. But, I wouldn't lie if I didn't feel guilty about like not hitting 12 to 15,000 steps a day. And there's this fine line because being outside and walking is critical and so healthy. But if there's a day where I'm just slammed and I really just want to go to bed early, there shouldn't be guilt that I'm like not hitting
Yeah.
that. So it's
Yeah.
such a dance between over optimization and truly integrating more healthier habits into our life. How do you
Yeah,
balance?
it's hard. I mean, especially because someone who had an eating disorder, I mean, it's something that I'm constantly walking the fine line of. So I think I have a tendency towards optimizing. And for a long time, I bought a cold plunge. I had one in my backyard. I was wearing CGMs. Like I was just a data experiment for so many years. And it honestly wasn't until I started daily basis when I like really started to sift through what was really giving me energy and what was taking. And it's actually pretty interesting how when I was doing that, I was working out twice a day, cold plunging every day. I had my CGM on, which CGMs are great tools, but they can be really, really stressful. And I was, doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing. I was I felt worse then now when I instead of working out twice a day, I probably work out like 4 times a week probably, and I walk a lot more and I sleep a lot. Like if I am choosing between a workout at 5 a.m. or getting 8 hours of sleep, I always choose 8 hours of sleep. And before I would always wake up at 5 in the morning and do my workout. Way less cardio, way more strength training and Pilates and yoga. Um, Less focus on what I'm eating and more just listening to my body and sometimes having pizza and sometimes having a big bowl of vegetables and just depends on where I'm at and who I'm with. And I mean, I feel amazing. And like, I would not say that I am just extra ultra habitually healthy. Whereas before, maybe people would look at me and be like, "Oh, you do all the right things. You must be so healthy." But I would bet you my inflammation levels were higher, my cortisol levels were higher. I had my body composition was so different. Like it's pretty amazing how just calming down and not thinking about it so much sounds so trivial, but it's so real how it can actually put you in the place that you've always wanted to be.
I mean, I can't relate to any of that more. I feel like I've added new metrics to my head. I've always been an optimizer by nature. Like if there's a number, I'll get a number in my head of steps or calories or whatever. And that is, I have so much stress on myself to hit those. And what has shifted for me is like which metrics I'm optimizing for. And some of the things you just said, like for me now, if I get a really good night's sleep, that is more important. I like in my head, it's of higher priority than getting a certain workout class in or time with friends. I view that as like a very productive thing because I know how much it affects my mental health. And I would rather
Yeah.
have a lower step count for the day, but that those steps were outside, even in the dead of winter, than walking on the treadmill for 2 hours. Like I feel like I've just changed my perspective of like sunlight, community, rest. Like those things are
Yeah.
now equal importance to me that and I totally don't even think about things like calories for exactly what you said, where it's like the less I try to optimize food and just listen, the easier it is actually. Like it's
Yeah.
interesting how that kind of works in the inverse. Like when the more
Yeah.
I control it, the harder it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, optimization culture is exhausting. Like it is just so exhausting. And the whole calories thing and it's just like, when is enough, guys? Like, I don't know. I'm just like, and there are some amazing things that come of it, right? Like there's amazing communities that come from all of these different things. But I think that it can be really, really toxic and challenging and triggering for a lot of people and put people in a bad place. And we're just try and enjoy our lives here. Like, let's sleep more. Let's like chill out and not get so hyper fixated on everything. I think it's very freeing, I think, especially as a woman doing it.
I think too, women focus so often on what they should do and not what they need to do. Like, what they need for
Yes.
themselves. Like, it's so often, "What should I avoid? What should I not eat?" Um, "What step count should I hit? What calorie count? Macros?" It's just, like, enough with the biomarkers.
Yeah. Oh my
And
God.
so often we forget, like, what do we need? Like, what do we need
Yeah.
to add in? Healthy fats and extra rest and social time or a massage or a pedicure or
Yeah. Yeah. And who's the longevity guy?
No,
No, he's the one who like is trying to reverse aging so
Brian
intensely.
Johnson.
Brian
we're
Johnson. Yeah. I was watching an interview with him the other day and he was talking about this and he was talking about how he wants everyone to know that he is doing this as a pure experiment. He's like, this is me trying to reverse aging. It is literally the biggest sacrifice I will ever make for my life. Like I am doing this for other people so that you guys can understand what habits reverse aging, but it is not fun. It's a giant sacrifice for me because that's his life. He's reversing aging. So he's only doing every single healthy habit that could possibly contribute to reversing aging and looks great, but it's like at what cost? And I think it's cool that he's coming out and talking more about that because I think it's really important to keep that in mind and to look at the person who's sitting in their house optimizing all the time versus the person who's out with their friends and maybe worked out less or ate a little less healthy and comparing their happiness levels is probably the one that's with their friends.
Why do you think as women we are so afraid to not optimize?
I unfortunately think it all just comes down to not being enough. Like I think that it's the patriarchy. I mean, it's so silly to say that, but I think that for me, at least, I always felt like if I was just a little more athletic, if I was a little skinnier, if I was a little more successful, I would get here. I would get, the dream job. I would get enough money that all the money that I'd be able to have, I'd have the best friends, I'd have the best boyfriend. I feel like there's just this, you look at the celebrity and you look at social media and you look at all the people who are quote unquote winning in life and you see the things in the box that they've checked. And I think it's so easy to just be like, oh, well, I don't have those things. So I need to have those things. And, I definitely struggled so much with that my whole life and just never feeling like I was enough. And I think that's why I got into triathlons is I was like, this is a way for me to feel valued in some way. And I could compete at a high level and I could win and I could get trophies and stay on the podium. And like, it made me feel like I was the best at something and like getting extremely skinny and just feeling like I'm now the skinny one. Like, I am now that person. I never felt like that person. And now I am that person. It's like we do these things, and I think you get these short term moments of feeling on top of the world and like your life is all figured out. And then 3 months later, there's something else that you feel like you're missing. And I think it's this hamster wheel of not ever being content. And I think that's the thing that I wish women would prioritizing more than wanting this whatever badge of being enough is just feeling content because I think that the feeling of contentness over winning or being the winner or whatever that feeling is of not being enough is much more rewarding and recognizing, okay, if I don't get this thing or if I'm not the most athletic in the room or if I'm not the CEO or the job, if I don't get this job, like are you going to be okay? Or is that going to ruin your life? Because you want to be on the former side of that, right? Like you want to be okay. And I think that people who are super confident in their person as they are today, those are the most attractive people. And those are the people that get all of the things that you want because they're confident and they're authentically them. And so I think that's been the biggest shift for me. And I hope that more women can prioritize really feeling content and authentic to themselves in the moment.
I mean, it's maybe trite to say, but it's intrinsic self-worth. It's like real self-worth that is not tied to a specific outcome. And I think we all struggle with that because we're constantly sold. We wouldn't be able to be marketed to if people told us that that was the secret. It's like, this product, you have your hair done this way, you need to look this way, you need to have this title. Like all of those things are constantly told to us. And it's not until like for me, I finally got to the end of that hamster wheel and I was just like, I am so tired of chasing the
Yeah.
next and being miserable. There has to be a better way. And what you said is exactly it's being content without anything else. And it takes a surprisingly long time for us to figure out, I think. It's just not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's about celebrating the little things. Like a couple weeks ago, I was on a hike and I was tired and I was in the back. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, wow, a few years ago, if I was in the back on a hike and way further behind my group, I would have been so annoyed at myself and I would have just pushed through it to get to the front. 100%. We've all had those moments. And that was what defined me. I was always just trying to just fake it till I make it. But I felt so fine with being in the back. I said to myself in that moment, wow, this is a huge win that I am totally fine being in the back behind my group because this is the pace I want to go at. And I do not care that they want to go faster than me. And I think that it's just, that was a very, that was a huge moment for me. And I think recognizing those things as you're on your journey and is really, really important.
I had that experience today. I used to be, oh my God, I used to be like militant about my workouts. If I went to a workout class and they said sprint, I sprinted the hardest that I possibly could. I did everything that they said in the class with like heavier weights than suggested. And now I just don't. Like, and sometimes I honestly
Yeah.
I make my own moves. I'm like, I don't feel like doing that.
Yeah.
And today I go to this class and I'm friends with the instructors and they were doing a harder plank. And as I said, I'm kind of in my luteal phase. I'm not feeling 100%. And they were doing a plank balancing on a medicine ball. I was like, I don't want to do that. And I kind of did it on my knees on the ground. And they're like, Annie, come on, we know you can do this. And I was like, no, I can't. I just didn't do it. And I'm like, that's
You're like,
the
I don't
thing.
want to.
I don't want
Yeah.
to.
Amazing. Great. Good
Bad.
job. I
Yeah.
think it's
So
great.
freeing. Like those
Yeah.
moments are so freeing. You're like, wow, like I didn't realize that that could be like
Yeah.
And you leave and you still feel great. I'm like, do I have a better ab definition because I, did it on the medicine ball? No, definitely
No.
not. Honestly, I probably have better because I listen to my body now. Like,
Yeah.
it's so
100%.
counterintuitive.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Oh my God. Well, this has been amazing. So appreciate you coming on. This has been such a just thoughtful and really inspiring conversation. I'd love if you could leave the audience with one of your daily feel good tips to come into your body, something that you do daily or a few times a week that you find really grounding.
I think that I have been working on doing more contemplating daily, whether that's not putting headphones in during a walk and just kind of looking around me and contemplating the world, or sitting on the bus and looking out the window without staring at my phone. That has brought a lot of joy into my life. And I would highly recommend it as a daily or at least like semi 3 times a week habit. Contemplate the world more, get out of your head. Not necessarily meditation, but stop looking at your phone, stop talking to people on the phone, just look out the window.
It's a good one. Yeah, definitely don't do that enough.
Yeah.
And where can everyone find you, Izzy, and Daily Basis?
Yeah. Daily Basis, you can find me there. It's dailybasislight.com. We're launching our new product in April. So follow along, get on the email list. And I'm Izzy Fisher on LinkedIn. And that's it.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Rose.
Bye.
If something in today's conversation resonated with you, take a moment to pause and notice where it's sitting within you.
Living in alignment is not about fixing yourself or becoming someone new. It's about listening, trusting, and slowly coming home to who you already are.
Thank you for spending this time with us and for being part of this community.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who might resonate with it too. See you next time.